Hello, everyone. If you just joined us, we're going to start in just a moment. Please keep in mind that we can hear background noise pretty clearly. So if you have any background noise there where you are, please just push *6 to mute, and then you can press *7 to unmute whenever you want to ask a question. So let's get started. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kathy Cooney, and I'm the Director of Donor Services for the Montana Community Foundation. On our call, we also have Riley Meredith, our Director of Marketing and Communications, and Emma Riley, who is our Database Coordinator, and we have Jenny Santee, who is our Senior Accountant, and they all three are experts on DonorFirst. And so I'm going to be facilitating this webinar, but I do want to have them available in case anybody has any questions. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about what DonorFirst is. DonorFirst is a portal that gives you state-of-the-art online access to your fund information at the Montana Community Foundation. DonorFirst gives you the ability now to access and manage your accounts online 24/7. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are already registered for DonorFirst? You've already gone through that process.
I have. This is Daryl.
This is Daryl. Good, good. Anyone else?
We are. Ken and Eden.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Ken Eden.
Oh, great. Wonderful. And anyone who registered already, did you, just out of curiosity, did you have any difficulties?
I'm not sure. I'm getting a lot of beeps, but they're interfering with your audio.
Yes, we're supposed to hear the beeps when people join us on our call. So don't worry about the beeps. But hopefully those of you who have registered have not had any difficulties. We're finding this DonorFirst is a wonderful system. We're very happy to have it. And we want to just talk briefly about what DonorFirst can do for our fund holders at the Montana Community Foundation. First of all, you can access financial information about your fund. So if you're a donor and you have a donor advised fund and you've made recent contributions, you can verify that those contributions have gone into your fund. If you're a nonprofit or local community foundation and you have a fund or two with us, you can also eventually, you can see those contributions. Eventually we'll have some additional information available that's not available now, but you will be able to see that you've received a contribution. You will, of course, also be able to see what is in your fund. All right. In addition, you can make online grant recommendations if you have a local community foundation that's operating under our 501c3. Where
I'm on a webinar. Montana Community Foundation.
Hello? Hi, did someone have a question? No? Okay. In addition, you can make online grant recommendations, and that includes donors with donor advised funds and also local community foundations that send their grant recommendations to us. That can all be done online now. You can also see your grant making history, which is really helpful. If you don't remember if you've made a grant recently to a specific organization, you can actually check that history. You can also now see and download your fund statements. You can get the latest news about MCF. You can even get some grant making ideas, because we do have a section where we have some projects around the state that you might want to consider supporting. And finally, we have a list of Montana Community Foundation staff people who can be very helpful if you have any questions, either financial questions, questions about new gifts, or anything in general I can handle as the Director of Donor Services. So all that information will be easily available on DonorFirst for you. I asked a few minutes ago if any of you had used Net Communities. The new DonorFirst system is in a way similar to Net Communities. Net Communities was also a donor portal where you went into make grant recommendations and access your information. However, DonorFirst is much, much, much better. It's a much more sophisticated system. Net Communities was an older system we bought many years ago. DonorFirst is state-of-the-art. So if you had any difficulties previously with Net Communities, you will probably find that DonorFirst is much, much easier to use, much faster. I think you will be very happy with the improvements. By the way, I just want to take a moment to say that if you have any questions, or we welcome questions. You can either type those questions into the chat box, or just say your question out loud, because it's probably something that other people are thinking as well. So please, you don't need to wait till the end. Feel free to give us your questions right away. So of course, number one question is, how do I get started? How do I get registered? All of you should have already received an email from the Montana Community Foundation. Those emails, I think, went out about a month ago. If you feel like you never got that original email, or you don't know where it is, you perhaps accidentally deleted it, feel free to let us know and we can send you another email invitation. But you can see in the email invitation, at the end of the first sentence is the link that you'll need to click on. But we also want you to see that there is a passphrase that you will need to register. So I know that when I first registered, I missed that passphrase altogether and had to go back and find it again. So when you go in to register, make sure that you write down the passphrase. So when you click on the link, you are ready. And here we go, signing up for access. Very simple to do. It says passphrase. You type in the passphrase and you hit continue. The next step is to enter your password. If you want to keep the same username that we assigned you, that's fine, but most people would like to personalize their username. You can go ahead and do that. Make sure that we have an email address that you would prefer, and create your password and confirm it. Hit enter, and voila, you will see the DonorFirst dashboard, which is that main page. Any questions so far? Does that look fairly simple? Did anyone have any difficulties at all? It seems like everyone's indicated it was fairly straightforward.
The access, I don't have that original access.
No problem, Arnie. We are going to send that to you.
Okay.
Emma is on the call. Emma, can you send the email to Arnie Siegel?
If we have your internet, or not your internet, your email in our database, then you have been sent an invitation. But I would love to double check and make sure that we've got it and that I've got your email.
Yeah, we do.
Kathy, do you have a slide with my contact information on it in your PowerPoint?
It's at the very end. So if any of you need that invitation resent, because I know that those emails get lost in the shuffle. We all get so much email these days. But you can either contact me. My information will be at the end, and also Emma's information. But Arnie, we will make sure you get another invitation.
Yeah, if you would. It's been lost.
No problem. Okay. Now the big question that I ran into when I registered is, once I was looking around the site and I finished my session for the day and logged out, it was like, uh-oh, wait a second, how do I get back in? So once you've finished your initial session after you've registered and you close out, and let's say a week or two later you want to go back in and recommend a grant, piece of cake. To get back into your account, you would go to our website, which is mtcf.org. And if you haven't had a chance to check out our new website, Riley did an amazing job a few months ago of launching our new website. It's beautiful, and there is a lot of wonderful information. So you may want to just browse our website anyway. But you would want to be on the home page, and you can see the blue arrow points to the little box that says My Fund. So you would click on that little box. That will take you to the user login, where you just put in your username and your password, and you would click on Login. And voila, here we are again at the DonorFirst dashboard. So this is always what you're going to see when you get on our DonorFirst system, our DonorFirst portal. And you can see right here on the side we have the key staff people that you can contact with their email addresses, etc. So this is a great place to go when you have a question and you're not even sure who to ask. You might want to just check that DonorFirst dashboard and send an email to the staff person that you think might be able to help you. And again, I'm the middle picture there. You can always contact me regardless of what the question is, and I'll connect you with the right person. Now let's talk again about the fund information that you will be able to access on this portal. First of all, how much money is in the fund right now? We get that question a lot, and it will be really nice now that nobody has to call or email before a board meeting and say, oh, well, how much is in my fund right now? You will be able to go online 24/7 and get up-to-date information. Also, again, like we said, you'll be able to see what contributions the fund has received lately, when the last distribution or grant was made, what grants were recommended from the fund and when, and you can access your last fund statement. So let's talk about recommending grants. If you have a donor-advised fund, or if you're a local community foundation like Community Foundation of Northern Rosebud County, Daryl is on the phone, you would recommend grants through this online portal. And the question to ask is, why recommend grants online? You all have the forms. A lot of people are very comfortable with filling out the paper form and faxing it in or scanning it and emailing it or just putting it through the mail. We still get a lot of mailed in donor recommendation forms. And I want to reassure you, if you feel more comfortable with paper, you are more than welcome to continue sending in those paper grant recommendation forms. However, if you recommend grants online, that really shortens the process from the time you make your grant recommendation to the time that that check goes out. Plus, it's a lot harder to lose those grant recommendations when they're done online, because when you put that grant recommendation into DonorFirst, it automatically comes over into our system, and we can see it right away and get it processed. So it just makes things very, very speedy. The likelihood of losing that grant recommendation, as with the paper form, is much reduced. Plus, it just makes our systems more efficient and effective. And we are trying to be very efficient in our processes because that keeps our overhead lower and that keeps your fees lower. So we love the idea of having these online grant recommendations because of the streamlining of systems that creates.
Kathy, I heard your sales pitch about the online grants, but where do I get an application form so I see the general approach that you're using? Could that be sent to me at the same time you're sending it?
Application form, are you talking about the grant recommendation form that you send?
Yes.
Okay, you need just our regular paper grant recommendation form.
I want to see what the format is, yes.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. And those of you who are familiar with the grant recommendation form will see that the formatting on DonorFirst is fairly similar. So if you wanted to make a grant recommendation, you would, as you can see in the blue arrow, you would go to Make a Grant Recommendation and click on that. And then you would see the Make a Grant Recommendation page. You would follow the blue arrow though, and put in the name of the nonprofit that you wish to make a grant to. Now, if you're making a grant to a public agency like a library or a city fire department or state of Montana, some agency or some program within the state of Montana, you won't actually find that in the charity database, but if it's a 501c3 organization, you just put the name into that field, that empty field, and hit search. Now, if you put in the name and it runs a search and nothing comes up, that might mean that the organization is not a 501c3 or the legal name is different. So it will give you the option to continue and make the grant recommendation anyway, and then it will flag it so that we as staff can go in and call the nonprofit and find out what their legal name is that's registered with the IRS. But for most of you, you're making grants that are pretty straightforward, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, American Heart Association, whatever, and it's fairly easy to find the nonprofit through the charity database. You also have a list of past grantees. So if you'd like to make grants to the same organizations over and over, and most donors do, then it's very simple. You don't even have to do the search. You just find the nonprofit that you'd like to make a recommendation for on the list of past grantees, and that will pull up the same information. And then you will get the page where you can just fill out the regular information about the grant. Now, grants pending your approval, you will, the grant submission page that you will see, you will need to just click on the box here if you want to receive a confirmation email. We like to get those automatic emails sent out by DonorFirst to let you know that we did indeed receive that confirmation and we are processing it. So if you would like that email, go ahead and check the box. And then be sure to check the box that indicates that the recommendation does fall within IRS guidelines. That's very, very, very important. So be sure to read that information. If you haven't looked at it in a while, please make sure you understand that information and check the box. All right, and then that grant is processed fairly quickly. Just so all of you know, right now we are entering grants through Wednesday, Wednesday around noon, or maybe a few hours later. By Wednesday afternoon, all the grants for that week have to be entered, and then Friday the checks are cut and sent out. So if you're sending in a grant recommendation to DonorFirst, if you could get that done by Wednesday at noon at the latest, if you want that check to go out the day after, or the day after tomorrow, on Fridays, in other words. If you're not too concerned, you can send that in on Thursday or Friday or over the weekend, and it'll go out the following Friday. So not a problem. Any questions about grant processing?
Yeah, Kathy, this is Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
Then we don't need to send in the grant request forms or minutes of meetings or copies of the grants anymore? You
do actually. You can do that in a follow-up email because for the local community foundations, it's an exception. Donor recommendations don't require any additional attachments, but the local community foundations do. And so what we want to do is have you go into DonorFirst and make those grant recommendations so it gets into our system and we can start processing it so we can get those checks out quickly. And then if you can send the email with all those attachments, again, that allows us to double check the information and continue on with processing. So it does shorten up that window of time that we need to process grants if you do the actual recommendations online. Does that make sense?
And it just can be an email of the scanned grants then?
Absolutely, absolutely. We don't necessarily, need the paper copies. The email's a lot quicker because we would like to shorten those processing times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Daryl, this is Riley, just as a side note to that, we are working with the folks at DonorFirst to work on the capability of you being able to upload those documents at the same time that you make your grant recommendation. And so hopefully we'll make that process even a little bit more seamless for the local community foundations.
Great.
Yeah, and that is one of the nice things about DonorFirst is this company is really willing to work with us and help us tweak the system to fit our processes and our clients' needs. The system's so much more robust that it has a lot more capabilities than Net Communities. We just didn't have a lot of flexibility with Net Communities. So thank you, Riley. That's excellent news. All right. And by the way, as long as I've got some of you on the phone that are donor advisors, we really encourage all our donor advice funds and our local community foundation funds to send in grant recommendations very soon. Don't wait till December. We often get a huge volume of grant recommendations in December because people are so used to making those end-of-the-year gifts, and donors are treating those grants like end-of-year gifts, and that's not necessary. So if you want to make sure that your grants can be processed quickly, you want to get those in now rather than waiting December. Last year there was a backlog of a few weeks where grants were delayed because we just got such a huge volume. So if you know you want to make some grants, do it now. All right, finding recent grant history. We have a wonderful database of grant history for your individual funds, and so we want to make sure you know how to access that. Again, you would want to go to the home page, the dashboard, and you would click on the tab that says Grant History. You will find that the grant history is listed, as you can see on the screen. So you can not only get a lot of great information by clicking on any field within the Excel spreadsheet, but you can also re-grant. So in other words, if you see a grantee that you've made a grant to before and you'd like to make another grant, you can click on that re-grant key and you will be able to make another grant. And as you can see, you can also do a search. If you don't remember the name of the organization that you made a grant to a few years ago, but you'd like to make another grant, you can do a nice search, and you'll be searching just under your grant history. Any questions about that? Okay. Moving on, fund statement. This is another area where we get a tremendous number of email and telephone requests because people frequently misplace their fund statement, or the fund statement goes to one person and it needs to go to another person. So it's going to be so much easier now for multiple people on a board of a nonprofit that benefits from an endowment with us, or for a local community foundation. If you have multiple people that really need to see that fund statement, you can give them that username and password for your community foundation's account and easily access the latest fund statement. First thing you would do on the dashboard is you would go to the name of your fund. For example, it could be the Community Foundation of Northern Rosebud County, for example. You would click on that name. That will take you first to some great information just on account balances, the total fund balance, pending grants, et cetera, et cetera. So if you just want a quick and dirty total of what's in your endowment right now, you can see it right there. Then if you want to go a little bit deeper, if you scroll down that first page, that dashboard page, you will see a yellow tab that says View All Documents. So you would click on that, and then you would see, oh, did I miss something? You would see a place where you can, no, I had that. Hold on. There it is. Document Management. You would go to this screen where you could click on the PDF that has your latest statements. And you will see, eventually you will see a long list of endowment statements, because we are now putting all the endowment statements as we go forward every 3 months. We're storing them in DonorFirst so you can access it through your portal. So I think that will save a lot of time and energy, especially if it's 4 o'clock and you have a 5 o'clock board meeting and you need that statement. It's not going to be a problem accessing it. Any questions about that? Yeah.
They should have, I believe we have the last 3 years already uploaded for everyone.
Oh, wow, that's great. I didn't even realize we had that many. That is fabulous. You all have been working very hard. So there's already some really robust history in these accounts on our DonorFirst system. So you might want to just take some time and browse through and see what you can find. Right, and then the statements, since they're PDFs, they look exactly like the statements you get by mail at this point. So we have come to the end. Boy, we got through that pretty quickly, but we are finding that DonorFirst is very user-friendly, and I wanted to make sure that you understood the process of getting registered, recommending grants, and accessing those fund statements, since those are the most important processes that you'll need to know about. Anybody have any questions about anything else related to DonorFirst? No questions. Well, I guess everything was very clear then.
Well, I'm just curious about your plans for the future, what you'll be adding to this, if anything, or if you see this as the full functionality of the new website. Ken Eden.
And I can speak. Yep, I can speak to that, Ken. There actually is. There's quite a bit. There are some other things that you're already able to do in there. For example, family funds can create groups. So if you had multiple people who needed to, maybe vote on a grant recommendation or things like that, you can create private groups where you can share information and make some decisions and things like that. And the other thing that is nice about this product is that the folks at Crown Philanthropic, which is the parent company who put this product out, are sort of continuously improving the product and adding new features. We expect, a big update around the middle of next year, which will allow some more custom functionality around the contribution history and things like that. And it's one of those things that if you guys find features or functionality that you would like to see, or you see improvements that could be made, please let us know, because they're very good about incorporating those ideas into future product plans.
Right. Well, I just wonder, Emily has done a wonderful job for us personally in sort of keeping us up to date on just the performance of the investments that obviously affect the amount of money in our endowment. So is that information going to be incorporated here, elsewhere, or what?
I don't think we'll probably ever get to the point where we'll be able to have any sort of real-time performance, because we would actually have to tie in to the markets that way. I wouldn't.
I didn't mean on a real-time basis. Once a year, twice a year, that kind of performance.
Yeah, and I think there is some of that information available on the account statements. I mean, you can see changes in that, and I think you will be able to see, I believe it's on a monthly basis that we update the changes from the investment results. So you'll see that balance change on a monthly basis once we reconcile those accounts with the investment performance. So when you log in, you will be able to see that change in investment, up or down, hopefully always up.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
And we are going to continue to do those webinars twice a year. And if some of you aren't familiar, we do webinars generally in September and again in February, where we go over the last 6 months of investment performance. We have one of our advisors from Merrill Lynch talk about what they anticipate will happen in the future. Again, Merrill Lynch, if those of you don't know, they are our consultants on investments. They help us manage and oversee all the companies that actually invest the money for us. But they help us with those webinars twice a year because they have just such a great amount of knowledge about what's going on with the markets and what might be going on with the markets in the future. And we totally anticipate doing those webinars forever, because it's a wonderful time for donors and fund holders to ask questions about about the funds, the endowments, the investment performance, and anything else you can think of. So it's a great way to get more familiar about what happens with the assets that are in the funds. All right. Great question.
This is Daryl. I just have one question on, there's another fund we administer, the Edna Olson. I can see account balances and things, but I don't see a link to grant from that fund, to make a recommendation from that fund.
Oh,
See something later.
That one might be set up differently. Why don't we look into that, Daryl? The Edna Olson Fund is an MCF fund. It was not a fund started by the Community Foundation of Northern Rosebud County,
Right.
but we have allowed the Community Foundation of Northern Rosebud County to advise us on how to make recommendations. So we will find out if we can go ahead and get you access to make recommendations for that fund as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. All right, I'll look into that. Right. Now, if you need some additional help, for example, if you can't find the email that we originally sent out, Emma is the person to call. Yay, Emma. So she's our database coordinator, and there is her office number in Helena and her email address. And just real quick, I'll go back to this slide in just a second, but I have a different phone number. I have a little office in Big Fork, but I have a Helena number, and you can see my email address there. You can always contact me if you have any difficulties with anything. But again, if you want additional help specifically with DonorFirst, Emma is the first person to go to. So we really appreciate you joining us today, and we are recording this webinar, and so we will put the recording on our website. So if you have anybody that you know who is interested and is having some difficulty or wants to know more about DonorFirst, please direct them to our website. Any other questions before we finish? All right. Great. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everyone have a good day. Bye-bye.